Welcome back to the Jade's Treasure. Today I am back at the work warehouse, hence the atmosphere. Just a heads up, at any moment I could be getting some coworkers to walk in, so don't mind if I just greet them. And with that, let's get into it. Today I'm going to try a little bit of a new style with this interesting, I believe it's Ocean Jasper. For sure it's a Jasper, but I'm not sure exactly what kind. And to wrap it, we're going to use a set of three different 20 gauge wires. And two of them are going to be just over enough length to cover the circumference of the stone, and then one that's going to be slightly longer, and that's in order to have enough wire to wrap the hole for the lace to pass through. In addition to those 20 gauge wires, I'll be using one 24 gauge wire. I think this is about 3 feet or so. And with that, let's begin. So to start, what we're gonna do is kiss the 2 points of the 24 gauge wire together, slide all the way down to find that middle point there, and then we'll set that aside for a second, and then we're gonna place all 3 of the 20 gauge wires together, going parallel to one another, and we're gonna keep that longer length of wire in the middle, and we're gonna have it so that the longer end is slightly protruding just on this side, and then the bulk of the extra length will be on one side. And then what we're gonna do once we have those wires set in place, we're gonna take the 24 gauge wire and just hook that loop right around approximately the middle, and then begin to wrap all 3 wires together, tight, but not so tight that they begin to fold over into kind of a triangular shape. You want to keep them flat and parallel with one another. So we'll begin wrapping a little bit on one side, and then in a second, what I'm going to do is take the flat part of the pliers and pinch down to better grip the wires into place. And then from there, I can continue to wrap a little bit more. What's up, Taylor? How you doing? Welcome, welcome. And then once I get a good amount wrapped on the one side, I'll flip it around and begin wrapping on the other side. But before I do that, what I like to do is just pinch and push all the wires so they're kind of tightly wrapped together. And then I'll apply my grip, or reapply my grip, and then begin wrapping on the other end as well. And then once I have a good amount wrapped, I'm going to change it up by taking the 2 outer ends and then just splitting them so it's kind of like this pitchfork. And I'll do that same thing on the other side as well, making sure that the left outer one bends out left and the right one bends out right. And then from here, I'll continue wrapping just the middle wire, and I'll give it a good amount, maybe depending on the size of the stone that you're using at home. You want to make a good amount of length that it can go up the stone. I think for me, where those two bends at the bottom there for the stone, I'll aim to be right about there, maybe a little bit more actually, and then you'll see what I do next with the two side wires. I think maybe I'll do even just a little bit more than just where it begins to bend there, and that will help keep the stone even more secured. So I think I'll stop there and then flip over to the other side, kind of catch up to be at this point so it's a little bit symmetrical. Doesn't have to be, because it's kind of an awkward shaped stone. It's not a symmetrical stone cut, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but ideally you want to keep it as symmetrical as possible, kind of working to perfect the imperfection. I think that the more symmetrical it is, the more aesthetically pleasing it is to the eye. And for something as beautiful as a piece of jewelry, you want to keep it looking as appealing as possible. Let's see, I think a few more wraps on this side and then we'll be ready to start the next step. All right, so from here we're going to carefully place our stone in how we want it faced. And for me, it's kind of a diamond-shaped stone, so what I'll do is create the crease right there in the middle, and then place the stone back in. And then, as you can see, it's kind of natural for these two outer wires to want to cross over each other. In fact, that's what we're going to do. So, with doing our best to keep the stone in place, we're going to get an idea of where these two wires meet back to that middle wire where it's where I stopped the wrap, and then we're just going to bend those wires so they're once again realigned and parallel with that middle wire. And then before we get to wrapping again, we're just going to flip that over and do the same thing on the back side. Okay, and then with that, we're ready to begin wrapping once again. So I'm going to take the 24 gauge wire and then carefully wrap around all three of these 20 gauge wires once again. And you could even just bend these wires a little bit out. That way it's kind of easier to keep track of which wire is which. So clearly this one is the right, this one is the left, and this one is the middle. And I'm just going to stop after I do about 3 wraps on this side and then switch it over and get these sides done as well. So once again, just kind of bending it in such a way that it's clear which wire is which. We have the outer right wire, which we start the wrap around, the middle wire, and then the wrap completes when it goes all the way around the left wire there. All right, So now you should feel that your stone is feeling pretty snug and secure. And you can continue wrapping along all 3 wires. But I think I might actually stop here, and then we're gonna separate the wires once again. So here we have what looks to be 6 wraps, so we'll just keep it symmetrical by doing 2 more wraps because this one is 4. Making sure that we catch all 3 wires. So there's 1 and 1 more. All right, and then we'll just bend these wires kind of more so out of the way so that we can continue wrapping just that one middle wire. And from this point, our goal is to continue wrapping around that middle wire, kind of all the way up until it reaches the top and is able to join the other middle wire from the other side at the top. So we're about at the top now. And then from here, I'm just gonna flip around and catch up on the other side. And I'm looking at this and I'm thinking that because of the kind of awkward shape of the crystal, I won't have to do as many wraps on this side than I did on the other side because it's slightly shorter. See how right about there is where it stops. So I'll bend these 2 middle wires kind of pointing outwards now, so they're out of the way for me to kind of play with the side wires, which are just gonna cross once again. And from there, I could either bend this way, downwards, or upwards. For this example, I'll do downwards. And the idea with that is that I can do these little spiral twists and designs for the completion. And then I think on this side, I'll bend them upwards because there's not really enough wire to do kind of a full spiral. And then from there, I'm gonna bend the 2 middle wires kind of so they're set in place. And then with the 24 gauge wire, what I'm gonna do is carefully tuck this side down under both of these 20 gauge wires here, and kind of just wrap them so that they're locked in place. So I'll do like 2 wraps around each, making sure that it catches all 3 wires. And And then for this one, it could either go around the side or it could go, I think around the side is best because that way it best easily catches all 3 wires. So I'm just gonna wrap it around, kind of tighten the grip there. And then from there, these short wires we can just curl so it's kind of like locked and more secure. And it looks a little messy right now, but I'm not so worried about that because this is all gonna get wrapped over anyway. And then for this wire, I'm gonna take it and then begin wrapping around both of those top middle wires. Just enough that they're kind of locked into place with each other. And then I'll just pull these wires out to the side for now. I have a little bit of extra length, more than I need. That's fine. I can always do some kind of style finish. I always like to measure 2 digits of the finger to see the length that I'll need for the wire. In this case, this one is just short enough that I can't use it. That's okay. I let my viewers know that coworkers will be walking around. It's fine. I'm in the kitchen common area at work, so you can expect a lot of people to be walking around. Alright, so there I didn't really explain it, but what I did is I just created this 90-degree curve, and then I did a bunch of bends around the rounded finger to create this nice round loop for the lace to go through. And then with the final touch of the 20 gauge wire, I'm just gonna wrap around where I created that 90-degree bend. It's kind of like a hook. And then I'll just curl what's left over, just tucked in there. And then from here, I'll do the little curl spirals that I promised. So I got the 2 little curls in there. And then to finish, I'm just gonna take the 24 gauge wire and then start at the top of the neck here and just continue wrapping all the way around towards the bottom, towards the crystal body. Until I run out of wire. And ideally, I can kind of cover up the messiness of all those cross wires hooking in with each other. And then when I get to the tip ends, I'll just curl it and tuck it under all that wrap. And that's going to be the completion of the wrap. As you can feel the stone, well, you can't feel it, but you can see, I can feel it, that the stone is very securely wrapped in there. I think if anything, I'll just do a final little touch here because that wire is kind of poking out, so I'll just curl it so that it's kind of better tucked in. But aside from that, this wrap is complete.